Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Hungry Dogs podcast. I'm your host, Ty Sally, and our first guest today is a former teammate of mine at NJIT, Mattie Thomas. He's from Sacramento, California, and has taken a pretty unique path through college baseball. So, Mattie played 5 years at the collegiate level, starting at Delta College before he made the jump to a Division I school in California, CSUN, and then transferring again to the University of San Francisco. When I met Matty, he then finished his college career at NJIT, and after wrapping up his senior season at NJIT, he's now taking the step in beginning his professional journey in independent baseball. So we're glad to have Matty on, and here's the episode.
Hands up if you with it, drop it.
Well, welcome Matty to the pod. Matty, how you doing?
Great, brother. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the launch episode and
Yep.
just ecstatic to be here.
No, first episode, Hungry Dogs podcast. So where we're gonna start is kind of just the upbringing and your high school experience. So you gotta tell me what was it like, kind of playing in California, and like how competitive is that type of baseball out there?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny knowing what it was like in California and then coming out to Jersey for my last year this past spring, just because baseball is kind of an all year round thing. And
Mhm.
you don't really get that in Jersey just because of the weather and stuff like that. But in
Yeah, for
California, I
sure.
mean, you're out on the field for the whole year, unless you're playing a different sport. And I think that was kind of the biggest adjustment for me, going from being in California for my whole college career to going out to Jersey, and you're inside for half the year and maybe sometimes more depending on the weather. But yeah, I think that was being outside and being able to kind of have reps outside on actual field for the whole year was great.
Yeah, no, we get pretty unlucky here in Jersey.
Right.
And then probably don't go outside until early March if you're lucky with the weather, and there's snow everywhere. We're getting hit with snow right now. So in high school, kind of where did your recruiting process start for you? Was it early? Was it late? Like what type of thing went on for you?
Right. I'd probably say, especially now, but I feel like my class was one of the first classes to where like recruiting started pretty early. For me,
Mhm.
recruiting kind of started later. I was supposed to go to Cal State Northridge out of high school, which was a Division I school, and I had a really good senior year of high school and got recruited late to go there and play Division I baseball, which was obviously, I mean, a huge honor. And so that was kind of my high school story. I'd probably say that I was kind of a late bloomer, but I mean, now you get guys that kind of develop more in college anyway, so that's even later than that. But
Yeah, for sure. And did you have any type of dream school growing up?
um, I mean, I my whole dad's side of the family's from Texas, so I'd say University of Texas has always kind of been a school that I wanted to go to. Um, just because I grew up wearing those colors and stuff like that. But as
Hmm.
the kind of journey progressed, I was just kind of trying to find the best fit for me as a baseball player. And, I think West Coast was just ideal for me to be so close to my family, and um, being able to have them come out to a lot of games in San Francisco and Delta was awesome.
Yeah, all about the fam. All right, so we head into college now. You start at Delta. Talk about like that experience and JUCO baseball as a whole. Like, what's that day-to-day process like?
You're right. I think I think JUCO is something that a lot of people need to go experience for at least 1 year for baseball, just because I think something in baseball now is development's kind of pushed to the side at a lot of different
Yep.
places, and something that I feel needs to kind of be back at a focal point in the sport is being able to develop players at all levels, whether it's high school or Division I, two, three, NAIA, whatever. And I think at least at my JUCO at Delta, Coach Peters did an unbelievable job of doing that. And I mean, just the competition. There was always something every day where you were going to be competing, and you had to compete for long periods of time and focus, and that was always trained in you because at JUCO there's no practice limits, right? So we'd
Yeah,
be on the field for 4 hours a day, and we'd go head right into the weight room for another hour and a half, 2 hours, and you look at the clock at the end of the day and it's like, dude, it's 6:30 and I've been here
yeah,
since 12, so
yeah.
it's
All
definitely, I
agree.
think one of the great things about it is like the work ethic, and you kind of learn the whole mentality that like, work wins as long as you're working on the right stuff.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Some when talking about JUCO, those guys that come out of JUCO kind of have that like roll your sleeves up. They're not afraid to get dirty. They're just gonna keep playing their hardest every single pitch, things like that. And yeah, you're what you said about like the development process of players nowadays is you go to a big school, you may not get developed right away. You'll kind of just gotta figure it out on your own. So I agree with
Right.
you on that, 100%.
Yeah.
And
No,
so, what was
absolutely.
that like? What was that first fall like? And I know you kind of touched on it a little bit. So yeah, just expand on that. Sorry.
I mean, I think so. The first fall at Delta was, I mean, it was amazing because you get to be around, like you said, there's that kind of grinder mentality that, I mean, pretty much all JUCOs, I think, wherever you go have. Um, and so you kind of learn that from day one, and there's no limit on how much time you're spending with your coach developing, right? So
Yeah.
there are definitely days where, I mean, the Wednesday off day would come in the middle of the week, and it was one of those things where, like in Division 1, you're in the middle of the season and you have Monday off day, and you're like, all right, I'll go to the cage and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Wednesday off day came around, it's like sleep in, grab food, go back home, and like you don't move, and it's like maybe you go get
Yeah.
treatment, but I mean, the body's exhausted, you're gassed, the legs are.
Mhm.
We had kind of a brutal like old turf field, and so everyone would just get shin splints by week 2, and it was a
Yeah.
grind, dude,
That's
but
rough.
it was so fun. And I mean, two of my best friends are from the JUCO that I went to as well as high school, so you also make some
Mhm.
of your best friends through going through all that together.
Yeah, I feel like going through something like that where things may not be the nicest look wise. You still have a great time. Playing the game and stuff like that, meeting friends. So yeah,
Right,
I
and it kind of
appreciate you.
it creates a thing where it's like you just show up and play ball, which I feel like
Hmm.
that's another thing where people worry too much about the external uncontrollables of like the field and
Yeah.
the weather and the
Hmm.
environment. It's like, dude, at JUCO, you show up and you go play ball, and whoever's in the other dugout, you try to beat them, and that's what it is. And so I think bringing that from JUCO to Division 1 baseball was definitely something that really helped me.
Yeah. So to build on that, making the switch to D1, in your eyes, what's the biggest difference between JUCO and Division 1? Like practice, games, or just overall competition? What do you feel like the biggest difference was?
Um, I think the biggest difference is probably the style and practice, because and obviously, like the rules are the rules, and you only get a certain amount of hours per each season you're in. But at JUCO, the amount of reps that you would get was just impeccable, and I think that's why a big reason why we were talking about earlier is like the development in junior college is so good for guys. Is like
Hmm.
at Division 1 or like just any kind of 4 year, I know the rules differ between what level you're at, but for Division 1, it's like you're in those bigger weeks, and it still feels like you finished practice and you haven't really touched enough things, and you have to go and get in work by yourself or like with your boys. So I think just having the opportunity to get a large amount of reps as a group is a really good thing that was kind of a weird transition from JUCO all the way to Division 1.
Yeah. And now, personally speaking, like for you, did you have to make any adjustments physically or mentally when making that jump to Division 1?
That's a really good question. I'd say yes. Um, I think I think the biggest thing was just how much I think travel was definitely kind of a big thing from going JUCO to Division One, especially my first year, because I think my first year Division One was the year that I traveled most in all the programs I've been at. And in JUCO, you just kind of get on a bus and you go 30 minutes up the road, or you go 50 minutes. Like, you're never really going a far way unless
Yeah,
we play in this Southern California tournament, which was 8 hours or 9 hours going down there. But I think the biggest thing is just being able to adapt to your routine on the road and being able to not just fall into the trap of like, I'm going to stay in the hotel bed all day. It's like, you have to get up and moving, and you
yeah,
have to, like, stick with what you would do if you were at home versus away. Try not to change it too much.
yeah. I feel like the travel doesn't get talked about a lot because, like, when you're flying, say you fly out Thursday, practice that night, then you're into a 3 game set, and then you're flying back Sunday night, probably not getting back till Monday morning. It's People don't realize how much of a toll that takes on your body, especially
Oh
when
my,
you're doing it for weeks on weeks.
right. And especially it's like, I know you know this, but we were on the bus. Every road trip
Mm-hmm.
and the bus is a great time with all the teammates and stuff. But, like, when you're on a bus for 10
Yeah.
hours to North Carolina from Jersey, it's tough, and you get on the field and your legs aren't working. So
Yeah.
it gets back to, just finding a way to bring your routine on the road with you, and adapting it, and just being able to kind of like shorten or lengthen it depending on how much time you have or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so you played on both coasts, the West Coast and the East Coast. What do you think, baseball wise, like the way that the game is played or maybe taught? What do you think the difference is? Because a lot of people
Right.
talk about, West Coast playing like small ball, but
Right.
in your eyes, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think small ball, like, I think a lot of the skill work in having kind of a short game in baseball is definitely a lot more prevalent on the West Coast than the East Coast. Um, and that was something that I really enjoyed. It's like, I love swinging the bat. Like, that's my tool, and
Yeah.
so being able to be on the East Coast and swing a little more and was a great opportunity. But I think something that, and again, we talked about it earlier with having the whole year round in California and pretty much the whole West Coast in general to play outside, but you don't really have to alter your game a whole lot on the West Coast, or, like, as long as you're kind of west of Texas. But
Hmm.
I think a thing that we kind of had to focus a lot on was, like, depending on the ballpark we were at and depending on how gruesome the weather was and how cold it was, if the ball wasn't traveling, to kind of change heights and stuff like that. In the West Coast, it was more like the ball's going to carry pretty much wherever
Right.
you go, and it's like, let it eat a little bit. But
Hmm. Yeah, no, on the East Coast, like those early games, you better hit it low because if you get it
yes,
up in that wind, it's not going anywhere, especially if it's
no,
pouring in.
no,
Yeah,
it's not going.
it's totally different. But so, you finished up your career last spring, your college career, sorry. Now you're moving on to the next chapter and playing professional baseball. So, what's your routine looking like in present day as you prepare for that?
Right. I think something that's kind of helped me with adjusting from playing in college and being kind of very team organized for the last 4 years was, I'm just very kind of process oriented with everything. And if it's
Hmm.
up to me whether I'm going to get my work in or not every single day, it's going to get done. And that's just kind of my nature. That's just who I am. And so I think it's a lot more kind of, you have to always have kind of a motivation and create movement to have more motivation. But for me, kind of daily right now, I'm about to start winter ball in the next week in Palm Springs, and so I've been going to the field from like 9 to 11, catch play, band work, plyos, ground balls, with throws, and then I'll take a couple rounds like just on the field to see ball flight with
Yeah.
some other pro guys down here that I've been working out with, and then usually go grab something to eat, gym, and then kind of late afternoon I'll go and swing it again, kind of in the cage, and stick to more routines and see more shapes and kind of do more of like a not a lot of volume, but I mean more kind of intentful since you're not intentful, but more just focused on certain shapes and different angles in the cage later in the afternoon, and just kind of rinse and repeat every single day. It's definitely been fun because like I finished my master's, and so baseball is really the only thing I'm doing right now. That and my mental performance page I just started up, so that it's
Hmm.
been fun. It's been good though. I've been getting some good quality stuff done.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. So you talked about kind of working with some pro guys since you've been down there. Have you been able to talk to any of them and get some advice or anything as far as that nature? Is there any tips they've given you or anything like that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like if you play long enough, you're gonna run into people who you cross paths with, and you guys both know the same people, and so it's definitely kind of fun talking through. I one guy that we were at the field with the other day was played for the Yuba City team that I'm playing for in the Pioneer League, and so I was just kind of talking with him about coaching stuff and just daily routine stuff, and it sounds like it'll be a really great situation to be in because all the kind of position guy coaching guys sound that they're really good with getting being accessible. I'd probably say is the best thing, and helping you execute your routine on a daily basis and just get you ready for whatever time the first pitch is at to go compete and be the best athlete you can be.
Sweet. And now you touched on it. So you started your mental performance page I saw on Instagram. Just go into a little bit more detail with that and kind of explain what you got going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think starting my college career and it being COVID the first year, it was definitely kind of more of a lot more like mental test than anyone else would have really kind of experienced in a normal college baseball career. And I've been working with, I mean, I think he's the best guy in the world at it, Brian Kane, for over 5 years. And he works with a lot of really good baseball players and established programs and organizations, and has kind of been a mentor for me. And he actually has his own certification course to certify mental performance coaches. And I mean, I've done the stuff for 5 years, and so I know it really well, and I've used it and put it in action for 6 years of college baseball, and it's helped me tremendously on and off the field. And so it's always kind of been a passion of mine. And me and my best buddy Garen started up a page. It's called Dialed Human Performance, just to kind of, I mean, we love seeing what separates really elite high performers from just the middle of the pack guys, and kind of being able to put information out there and carry the torch from all the stuff that Brian's taught us has kind of been a really fun activity that we've started up, and we've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I feel like mental performance in the game of baseball is kind of like a very slept on thing because especially college baseball, it's a struggle sometimes, and you're sometimes down in the dumps a season, and you got to be able to kind of flip that switch in your head, keep the same routine, keep the same process. Don't ever be too hard on yourself because at the end of the day it's just a game, and you're just trying to hopefully get your family out or play for whatever you're playing for. So yeah, I feel like what you got going on, that's a great thing.
Hell yeah, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there anything else you want to touch on or explain anymore?
Man, I mean, I'd probably say if someone were to ask me, this is my favorite question to ask, kind of if I meet, really successful people, coaches, business people, anything, it was kind of passed down to me as like the $1,000,000 question is like, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you started, or like when you're my age or whatever. Um, and I think if someone were to ask me that from like, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting your college baseball career, I'd probably say the most important thing that I learned is you have to be able to like truly bet on yourself and know that like you're that guy. And there've definitely been situations in my career where it's like, man, it's going to be a huge risk that I go bet on myself. But from the first time that you do that and you kind of get over the fear factor of it and you say, oh, this is not that big of a deal. It's you have all the control in the world if you bet on yourself. If you bet on anything, any other external shit, then it doesn't really, you don't really have a say. But like, you have a say whether you do the work and whether you prepare yourself the most. So I think that's just bet on yourself is my biggest piece of advice to give really anybody listening to this or starting a baseball career or any kind of career. Bet on yourself.
Yeah, yep. That's great advice. I feel I've been through some slumps in my career, a ton of slumps, and I feel like the only way to kind of get through that is just attack it head on. Don't look to make excuses or blame it on anyone else. It's up to you to kind of pull yourself out of it, and you'll become a better person on the other side of it. So,
Right.
Mattie,
Absolutely.
appreciate you coming out and sharing your story, man. Best of luck to you as go over to winter ball and starting your professional career. And thank you to everyone listening. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Hungry Dogs podcast.
Yes. Peace.
All right. Well, that wraps up episode 1 of the podcast. Thank you again, Mattie, for coming on and kind of sharing your story to everyone. I hope you guys all enjoyed. I'll leave a link to all of Mattie's socials and his mental performance business in the description. I ask that you guys please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and go on Instagram at HungryDogsPodcast. Give us a follow, and we appreciate all the support. Thank you.